You know, Rebels, if you've been checking out some of my promotional ads on social media, you'll be aware that I have been using a lot of AI programs to help me create ads. But you know what? There's a lot more uses for AI than just funny little videos. And I'd like to introduce one of our new sponsors, Podium. It is a leader in creating AI tools for podcasters. Now, let's say you've got a podcast, or maybe you're even thinking of doing a podcast. You're probably wondering, well, how can AI be integrated with your workflow? I'll tell you about Podium. As a podcaster, you know that writing show notes and creating chapters and transcribing episodes takes a lot of time, and it can cost you a lot of money too. But you know what? That's where Podium comes in. It's an AI tool designed specifically for creators and podcasters with the goal of making post-production tasks quick and easy. And in just a few minutes, Podium generates show notes, chapters, summaries, clips for social media, a full transcript, suggested episode titles, social media posts, and more. Whew, that's a lot of work for one little program. Your show notes are key to your podcast's success because it helps new listeners find your podcast and they'll know if it's a fit for them. You know, kind of like Too Many Podcasts. It also improves your SEO, that's your search engine optimization. Ooh, big phrase there. And overall accessibility. And with Podium, you can focus on creating a great podcast and let Podium's AI do the heavy lifting. But Podium isn't just for solo creators and podcasters. It's a game changer for editors, producers, marketers, agencies, and production studios. Teams that use Podiums are able to increase workloads, decrease turnaround times, and improve their quality. How does it work? Very easy. First, go to Podium's website, and you'll see that link that's right there in the show notes. You get 3 hours free just to try it. Pretty cool, huh? And using that link also supports this show as well. And you know what else happens? Because I'm a good guy. You use my link, you will get 50% off for your first month. So visit the site, upload an MP3 file, and download your files, and that's it. And if you need anything else, you can use Podium GPT to generate articles and any marketing copy you might need in seconds. Instant show notes, transcripts, chapters for your podcast or channel. This will level up that podcast. So check out Podium today.
The Sherpa Screening Room is a presentation of the Sherpa's podcast picks, which can be heard on podcast apps everywhere, and the Sherpa-lution YouTube page. It's where you'll hear from creators from many fields from all over the world. Now, we take you to the Sherpa Chalet, where your host, Jim the Podcast Sherpa, awaits you. Kind of like how I'm waiting to get paid for this.
This week, on The Sherpa Screening Room, it's an interview with Rene Rivas, who wrote and directed the short horror film, Rejected. Rejected ties together 3 spooky stories through the use of a 90s camcorder. I can relate to old cameras. My camera is so old, it takes black and white selfies. By drawing them with a pencil.
Coming to you from Sherpa Chalet in beautiful downtown Mount Podcastia, it's time for entertainment interviews in the Sherpa Screening Room. Grab an aisle seat and a bucket of popcorn, but don't crunch too loud or you'll miss the show. Now, here's your host, Jim, the Podcast Sherpa.
Hello there, Rebels of the Sherpa-lution, and welcome to the Sherpa Screening Room. It is a presentation of the Sherpa's podcast picks. And who is this Sherpa that we speak of? That would be me, Jim the Podcast Sherpa, coming to you from Sherpa-lu Studios, high on top of Mount Podcastia, overlooking all of those hills and mountains of podcasts that are out there. But these are the shows where we're not talking to podcasters. Oh, no. We get to talk to you all sorts of creators like singers, actors, dancers, magicians, mimes. Well, the mimes don't really tend to say a lot on this podcast. Writers and directors, such as the gentleman we will be speaking to today. He is the writer and director of a short movie that is out, which is called Rejected. And no, it is not a movie about my dating life, but it's a horror movie. Well, so was my dating life, but let's get back onto the point here. Let's get back on track. Okay, so his name is Rene Rivas. He's living out west, I believe, in Arizona, and we spent a little bit of time, got to talk about his short movie, and it was kind of a short interview, but we got to know a lot, and I will include the link to that preview if you want to check that out in our show notes. That's the little things that you get to read when you're looking at your podcast player going, who is this idiot talking? That's what this is for. I'm glad I could clarify that. Anyway, why don't we head on down to the Sherpa Screening Room and have a listen to my conversation with Rene Rivas. Hello there, Rebels. We are here in the Sherpa Screening Room. My guest today, coming to us from out west, the hot desert, is Mr. Rene Rivas. He is the writer and director of a new short movie called Rejected, and he sent me a trailer of this movie. It's definitely a unique kind of horror movie, I must say, and we're going to get to know him, and we're going to know where he came about for this unique idea. Rene, welcome to the show.
I'm the podcast Sherpa. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on the show, and I'm looking forward to spilling the beans on this new wacky production, Rejected, that we just completed.
How long did it take you to put everything together?
It's kind of been a lengthy process, truth be told. I wrote the script to it in late 2021, and we started So I've primarily independently financed all of my productions, but I decided for the first time I want to try and raise a little bit of money, a little bit of startup money to get us going.
Okay. For
this specific project. So we ended up doing a crowdfunding campaign at the beginning of, I believe, 2022. And we raised about $5,600, which after fees and processing ended up being around $4,600. So we went into production, I would say, around mid-2022. And then production was, we forged on production intermittently throughout 2022 and 2023. And then I lived in post-production towards the start of 2024 and started submitting it to film festivals, I would say, in around May. So it's been a journey. It's been probably about a solid year and a half of intermittent production. Picking up, shooting on weekends, getting some interstitial pickup shots here and there. But yeah, the original inception and impetus of the whole idea goes back to the end of 2021.
I know as of the day that we're recording this, you had actually just gotten back from one of the film festivals.
Yeah, I just got back so I'm based in Tucson, Arizona, and I just got back from Columbus, Ohio for our Midwestern premiere of Rejected at Nightmares Film Festival. It was the first time I'd been out to Nightmares, the first time I'd been to Ohio, and it was just an absolute blast. Saw a lot of terrific programming, made a lot of new friends, a lot of fond memories, and just been touring with the film a little bit. A couple weeks ago, we took a trip out to Los Angeles for the Hollywood Horror Fest, which we took Best Parody Horror. That felt pretty good.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, it's just been a handful of months of just doing the diligence of the festival circuit. And in a couple days, actually, tomorrow I will be hopping on a shuttle to Phoenix to fly out to Provo, Utah for Film Quest, where Rejected's going to have its Utah premiere at Film Quest. And I've never been to Film Quest, so this is the first time for a lot of different things.
Okay. I'm going to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about the movie and let everybody know what it's about.
100%. So what Rejected is, it is a short 15-minute mini anthology, and it is horror parody, and it spoofs a 1997-based digital camera, a very rudimentary floppy disk camera from 1997 that was ultimately a flop. And we decided to create 3 parody fake commercials spoofing the camera, where the commercials take place in 3 different horror subgenres with a 4th wraparound. And the commercials go horribly wrong, where people meet some pretty rough endings. And there's blood, there's guts, there's mayhem, and there's a good amount of comedic timing and laughs in the short film, which I'm pretty excited about, because this was the first time my team and I had taken on a legitimate horror parody production. So it felt great to play in the horror comedy sandbox, as opposed to, generally the short narratives that we've produced in the past are all relatively pretty serious in tone. So it was a good divergence to just kind of, quote unquote, let my hair down have some fun, and honestly kind of poke fun at myself on this next one, which viewers will see that I did some acting in it and played a character by the name of Bob Durgans. That's pretty funny.
And it's interesting because there definitely is a very thin line between comedy and horror. I mean, between being scared and laughing as well. It's amazing how two different emotions have like really so much in common, that exhilarating feeling that you get, whether you find something funny or something that's going to make you jump out of your skin.
I've definitely heard for a very long time that comedy is definitely the hardest genre to tackle. And I don't know, for me personally, it was just kind of fun to jump into a sandbox that I'm unfamiliar with, to constantly challenge myself in narratives that I'm not entirely comfortable with. And that was kind of the whole idea, was just like, let's just try something fun and do something that we haven't done yet and play around with some comedy horror. And I think it turned out pretty fun, and the audiences have seemed to really enjoy the film. And it's a wacky film.
Have you been a long time horror fan? I'm going to presume that you were.
I've been a long time horror fan. I think, as far as I can remember, the first time my parents actually let me rent some horror VHS tapes was for my 8th birthday back in '93, and I specifically remember they let me rent the then new Jason Goes to Hell and Candyman. I mean, I was a fan prior to that, but I just my parents weren't really for the whole genre of horror, so my look and affiliation with the horror genre as a kid was basically just when I'd go to the grocery store with my mom, I'd sneak off and read Fangoria magazine in the aisles, and as a super youngster, be scared of all the VHS box art as I'm walking by and like be afraid to look. But just kind of tiptoeing my way into the genre. But horror has definitely been a part of my life for a long time, and it's I love it. I can't get enough of it. A lot of people consider horror to be the lowest hanging fruit, which in some cases it can be, but it can be so much more than that, and I love being a part of it. I'm thankful and grateful to be a part of it. I'm thankful for the team that I have that helps foster these wacky visions that we put on the screen, and I love horror. It's a blast.
I think what makes good horror stand out from like the schlocky kind of stuff is the uniqueness of it. The thing that all of a sudden you're afraid of that you never thought that you would be afraid of. And now, Rejected brings an interesting premise with, it's a little camcorder that is causing all this bedlam, not a monster, not a space alien or anything like that.
Well, you see, it's funny you say that, because so the camera, I don't know if this is kind of dipping into spoiler territory, but the camera itself, I wouldn't consider it to be the antagonist. It isn't responsible. Well, it kind of is. The camera serves more than just a MacGuffin in the screenplay. It's not just a prop. It actually serves an active role in each one of, technically, 4 segments, the 3 main ones and the wraparound. So it's a vital component to Rejected, and granted, it's just a 15-minute short film. It's got a lot of scope packed into it, but it's. I mean, the listeners can't see it, but I'm holding it here right now, and it's a 1997 Sony Mavica that has a whopping 0.3 megapixels.
Whoa!
And and we, as you can see, the listeners can't see that we changed a lot of logos to avoid intellectual property and to play to the fair use gods and parody laws. But the camera is definitely the central, I guess you can call it, character in this world that we built. But the happenings that occur in Rejected are a direct result of the camera being used. I guess that's a good way of presenting it without giving too much away.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, and I know is this trailer out online or anywhere where people can see it?
Rejected trailer is on YouTube, and it's been on YouTube for a couple months now. And all you got to do is go to YouTube and type Rejected official trailer, If it doesn't pop up, put rejected official trailer with my name, Rene Rivas, RENERIV, as in Victor AS. And you'll see a little, I think it's like 1 minute, 10 seconds. You'll get a taste of this wacky film, which I have to mention, since Rejected is technically a period piece. It takes place in 1997. So the whole film is in 4:3 aspect ratio, and we did a lot of post-processing to make it look like a VHS tape on top of practical processing. So when the film was complete and we had picture lock, I dubbed Rejected onto a VHS tape, which I have to give props to director David Bruckner for inspiring me to do this. I wanted to try it myself and implement it into Rejected. So I dubbed the film onto a VHS tape, took apart the VCR and manually messed with the VCR heads to create real practical glitches.
Okay.
Which we recorded back onto a ProRes recorder and then implemented those glitches on top of some practical glitches. So it's an amalgamation of a lot of like digital meets real practical analog glitches. But the film, it very much, we put a lot of emphasis into packaging. We put a lot of emphasis into the world, into the details, and try to make it as authentic as possible to make it feel 1997. But it takes place in 97.
Yeah, so for the people that didn't get that, you basically used a modern style of filming to make it look like it was retro film in the movie itself.
Yeah, I mean, we shot on Red Komodo X and the Red Komodo as our main cameras, and then we brought the 6K footage and did a lot of de-hancing, added a lot of post-processing on it, and made it look lo-fi. So we shot it on cinema cameras, but we really degraded the shit out of the images to make them look of the era.
One thing that I remember about some of those old camcorders, there was always this one relative. Anytime there was some sort of event, he had one of the big, awkward camcorders, and it had the huge bright light. And they wanted to see you, and it was like, well, I'd be looking in the camera, but right now I cannot see a thing because you are burning my retinas to death. Yeah,
it's a little... I guess the world that we're living in is a little post the VHS camcorders, but yeah, definitely remember. Well, I mean, that's where I got my first taste of camera work. Was I wasn't allowed to touch it, but like circa 1991, 1992, playing around with the camera, the giant Panasonic VHS camcorder that my parents had back in the day.
Oh yeah, and I know you said you were hoping to eventually actually even do a full feature movie as well.
So I did for a little bit of history, I did a feature film titled Northern back in 2015, 2016 era. And it's definitely rough around the edges. It's definitely super independent, but it's an endearing little film. And a bunch of my friends and I came together and created this little 4:3 aspect ratio thriller noir that's got a lot of human drama in it with a sci-fi tinge. Mm-hmm. And the film actually never was released. It sat on a hard drive collecting digital dust for almost going on 10 years. But I took distribution into my own hands about 2 months ago, and I uploaded it to Film Hub. So if folks want to see the humble beginnings, they can look up Northern. And it's a 70-minute sci thriller noir about a character that's going through a divorce. He's a musician, traveling photographer, and he ultimately deals with his turmoils with a lot of self-medication, however you want to translate that. Mm-hmm. So where I'm going with that is we did the feature back in 2015, 2016 era, and it never really went anywhere. So I just started making short narratives and releasing them myself. In 2018, we shot it in 2017, but The Spirit of Haddonfield was a homage fan film that we did back then. And then we did The Tent in 2019. And then 2020 through 2021 era was Judy, short psychological horror thriller. And then we did Bite Size. And then we did 10/31/85. And then we did Skinamarink-Doo Part 2, which is kind of a arbitrary one-off of a film called Skinamarink. We did a parody film about it. And then I think I might be missing a film. And then we did Rejected, but to kind of wrap around full circle, I'm definitely feeling ready to dive into feature narrative again. And I've been working on a screenplay called, well, it used to be called Rock Bottom, but the script has ultimately been changed to be called Grunge at this point. And it revolves around it's circa 1997, and it revolves around a rock band that has a rising single on the charts, and they get approached by Outer Scope Records in the script. And ultimately, the band gets approached to be signed to the label, and the label wants to produce their first music video. And on the way to location to produce their first music video, disaster strikes. It's the huge inciting incident in the script where the band is put in a position to right the wrongs, and they ultimately decide not to and just continually make bad decision after bad decision. 80% of the film is going to take place in one location over one night, and at its core, it's a revenge movie, but it is it's a Murphy's Law tale of what can go wrong will go wrong. Like a rock band that has a silver spoon handed to them, ultimately just keep making bad decision after bad decision. And the whole narrative has a very hefty dose of high potency LSD peppered on top of it. So it's a psychedelic suspense horror thriller, and it's called Grunge, and it's currently in development. That's really what I'm hoping to jump into after Rejected, and just kind of pitch it around to see if we can get some feelers out there to possibly make the film. What my plan is, so I've never done a proof of concept before, but what we're planning to do is to cherry pick a high tension scene out of the script, change it around a little bit to kind of fit a 3-minute narrative, and shoot a proof of concept investor teaser trailer. And the whole idea and inspiration by that was watching Blood Simple for the first time like 6 months ago, which I had never seen the Coen brothers' first film. And the journey that they went on to produce that film upon, getting some money together and producing that first proof of concept, I thought to myself, I was like, you know what, that's what I want to do. If we're going to be playing around with people's capital, like I feel like I'm going to have that much more leverage and confidence if I can show them a solid, professionally produced 3-minute sizzle versus just pitching them passion and top sheets and, expressing the vision. So that's, to wrap that up, feature film is hopefully on deck, but we're going to produce a 3-minute proof of concept for it first.
I always like to ask, horror folks, like, what are your top 3 horror movies?
Top 3 horror movies. My all-time favorite is right behind me. The listeners can't see, but
Halloween.
John Carpenter's Halloween will always be my all-time favorite horror film. Position number 2 is probably going to be The Shining. Love me some Kubrick. And then the third favorite horror film, I mean, I'm a sucker for classic. I just kind of want to default to Jaws, but I love me some contemporary. There's definitely been a lot of contemporary directors that are putting some heavy hitters out there. Like I just went and saw The Substance for the second time last night. Coraline Fariag, she's producing some terrific stuff, and the likes of Ari Aster, I love what he's doing, and there's a lot of great stuff out there. But I would say that those are my 3 favorite: John Carpenter's Halloween, The Shining, and Jaws.
Okay, that's definitely an interesting trio, that's for sure.
With Friday the 13th, the final chapter, taking runner-up.
Okay, we can throw that in there. So if people want to find out more about some of the work that you're doing, is there anywhere that they can go on social media?
Absolutely. So about a year ago, a lot of the short productions that we had produced hadn't been posted anywhere, and I figured I kind of shifted my perspective on the YouTube platform and just started thinking about it differently with the mindset of, you know what, YouTube has millions and millions of viewers. I'm just going to embrace the platform and dump everything that I've produced on there. So about a year ago, we put all of our short narratives on the platform on the Rene Rivas Productions YouTube page. So if you want to see some of the stuff that we've done in the past, go check out the YouTube page on Rene Rivas Productions. And if you like what you see, shoot us a like and maybe a subscribe.
There you go. That's all you got to do, folks. So his name is Rene Rivas. The movie is called Rejected, and you can catch it on YouTube along with all of his other work. Rene, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Jim, the podcast Sherpa, that was fun. Thanks for having me on, and looking forward to talking with you about future projects down the line.
Be a rebel. Follow the show at Sherpa-lution on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Thanks so much for spending a little bit of time here in the Sherpa Screening Room, and thanks so much to Rene Rivas for coming by and gapping a little bit about his movie Rejected. And be sure to catch it online, and even if you want to see the preview, we will have the link in the show notes, of course. Before I get out of here, I just wanted to share a little bit of sad news, unfortunately. If you were listening to the show in Season 11, on Episode 23, I had the privilege of speaking to a gentleman named Troy DeVold, and it was a discussion about reality TV, and Troy has been involved as a director and producer of a lot of different reality TV shows. And unfortunately, recently I got the word from super publicist Steve Joyner that Troy had sadly passed away. And I got to tell you, as a guest, he was a really super nice guy. If you want to check that episode out, I think you'll learn stuff about reality TV just like I did that day. And I really appreciate the fact that he was able to come on the show back then and just talk and have a good time. A real gentleman, really a guest that I really enjoyed having on the show. So I'd like to offer my sympathies to his family and to his friends and associates. So he will surely be missed. So sorry to leave you out on a sad note, but we hope that you'll come back and there will be happier things next week, right here on Mount Podcastia, and I hope that you will be here to join us. And if you want to follow us on social media, Sherpa-lution is the word for Instagram, Facebook, a little bit of TikTok, Twitter. I'm over there, all over the place. Please don't be afraid to drop me a line and offer some commentary on the show. Tell me what you like and tell me what you don't like. Maybe there's something we can fix. Maybe you're a person with a podcast who'd like to be on the show. You never know. But I will be keeping you in mind. And until then, I say to you, Viva la Sherpa-lution, Lord Mr. Bruce. Let's head on out of here.
Thanks for listening to the Sherpa Screening Room. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. I'm Mr. Bruce, and this has been a Sherpa-lu Studios production. Viva la Sherpa-lution!